Everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the virtual fitness stage at this year's PGA show. My name's Daisy May Kenny. I'm a golf coach from England, and today I'm joined by Africa Alarcon, who is a golf fitness coach and the founder of GolfeFit. And we are very excited to share with you some awesome information today, all about training female golfers to hitting longer drives. So all things speed, power, distance for the ladies specifically. So really,
yeah, that's right. Welcome, everybody.
So really quickly, introduction to my bit of a background about myself and why we're so passionate about this topic specifically. I grew up playing competitive golf from the age of 14, and I always found that coaches didn't really understand that us females are built a bit differently, and running into a lot of personal performance brick walls, I would call them, just not being able to get to that elite competitive level with a few physical things that were holding me back, where if a golf coach had had the education to understand the female hormones and the female body a bit more, I reckon I would have done a lot better. So my goal was to learn and educate myself on this material and share it with you all so that you can help your young golfers achieve their golfing dreams.
Yeah, so my story is I'm a fitness professional, and I've been working with golfers for the past 15 years, and I've seen juniors and seniors and just regular amateurs, and there is a big tendency among female that they don't like to train hard. They don't want it. They fear it's going to make them big. They fear that it's going to make them lose flexibility, when we know that females usually have an excess flexibility, right? And sometimes they think that's an amazing thing to have, but we know that having that excess flexibility can be very detrimental to your power output and your control, right? So we wanted to talk to you guys about this and the physical tendencies, the technical tendencies that women have, and just to link both and just give you a little bit more information about the hormonal cycle, and especially how to train your female athletes so that they can go to the next level.
Exactly. So I'm going to ask you guys a few questions to think about. Did you know that the fastest growing population in the golf industry is females? Do you train your females how you train your males? Do you think there's a difference in how they should be trained? Lastly, do you think that distance has a positive effect on women's golf performance? So now, while all those questions get your brain thinking, without further ado, let's get stuck in. So I'm going to kick things off here talking about some technical factors. So technical factors that increase distance. I'm sure you've heard of a lot of these before. These are the main key factors. So firstly, ball speed. How fast that ball's coming off the club face. That's so important. It's the final variable to distance. It's all very well having lots of club head speed, but if you can't translate that to ball speed with a good strike, ball's not going to go as far. The next one, club head speed, just mentioned it. This one's been a huge one the past 2 years. I think with everyone seeing the tour players increasing their club head speeds over the past few years, they've wanted to jump on the bandwagon and do the same thing because they see how much it positively affects performance. The next one, which is very important for the female population, but often neglected, is club fitting. Now, having the right sized clubs, the right weight clubs, the right flex clubs is more important than you think, especially for females. Knowing that men are stronger than females, and Africa's going to get more into that and the reasons why on a hormone level, just knowing that we're not as strong, do you think that we should be using men's clubs? I mean, I started playing golf when I was 14, and I had an ugly set of, I think it was Lynx, I can't even remember the brand. They were like full-size, stiff men's steel golf clubs. And no wonder
this is very common, right? They see like women usually will get an older club set from their husbands or their fathers, and that's how they learn how to swing the first time, right? With heavy clubs that don't fit their needs. And that's gonna just be very detrimental for them to learn the proper movement, but also it's gonna just be super hard to swing, and it's going to cause a lot of injuries at the same time.
Exactly. I mean, we're going to touch here on some common technical tendencies in females, but one of them is overswinging, and I think that's a lot to do with the clubs being too heavy. So club fitting, if you don't already look into those areas for your female golfers, definitely recommend club fitting. The next one is kinematic sequencing. So simply put, the order in which we sequence our segments, so our lower body, our mid body, and our arms and hands, the order in which they go throughout the golf swing. Now, when we think about us females, we have a tendency to be hypermobile, right? So the problem with that is that affects the kinematic sequence because it affects the timing between segments. Obviously, if I've got more loads of mobility in my hips and my thoracics, the amount that I can rotate them separate from each other is going to be way more than maybe an immobile male or even an immobile female, but for the most part, mobile females. Being able to restrict that range of motion and prevent over separation is going to protect them from injury and facilitate the stretch shortening cycle, which basically gives them a fighting chance to get more muscle force, more force through the golf swing through muscle contraction. Okay.
Yeah, this is very important. So that excess flexibility, some people will think that, oh, it's perfect, right? So being extra flexible is very good for the golf swing. We all heard about the separation and how important is that to create speed. But if you have a lot of range of motion, but you don't control that, you're gonna have a lot of difficulties, right? Generating speed, and especially just going a little bit overboard, and that's gonna that could hurt you, that could cause a lot of injuries, and you are just in a very, very bad situation for developing an injury. And we know that that excess flexibility, it can be related to genetics, right? Think about this, not all women are super flexible, okay? But there is a tendency to be more flexible than men. But at the same time, did you know that during the hormonal cycle, during the menstrual cycle, there is a time of that period that women are extra flexible? And it's important to know that because on that time, if you're working with exercises in the gym, for example, like drops, jumps, just change of directions, and working with all range of exercises that explore that flexibility, you can really provoke an injury, and you don't want to do that, right? So it's very important to know that during the hormonal cycle, we have to avoid that. We're gonna get into detail a little bit further in this talk, but it's important just keeping that in mind.
Exactly, just understanding that there's a difference for the female population is really, really important. The next variable we'll have here is ground reaction forces. So how much energy our scales create with the ground. Now, the most common thing I hear from coaches to female golfers or amateur female golfers is, oh, it looks too pretty. It just looks too pretty. It's not athletic enough, right? And what you see is the feet stay pretty stable. There's really not much action going on. Well, if you look at some of the best female players in the world, great examples, Lexi Thompson. I mean, she's literally jumping off the ground when she hits that ball. Her foot is leaping off the ground because she's pushing so much energy into the ground. It's reacting back on her and giving her the ability to create more speed and energy. So just by getting someone to be more athletic with the way they use the ground can help increase distance.
Yeah, just keep in mind that, for example, the female upper body strength is between 25 to 50% of a male's. So if we are weaker on the upper body, we need to use that lower body, right? And if you don't even use that lower body and you don't have the strength to control your club with your upper body, you're in a big trouble. Okay, so it's very important to teach your female athlete to use that ground reaction force and that, that hip extension, that triple extension, and don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of having your athletes sometimes even jumping, right, when they're hitting the ball, because that's just showing that they are trying to generate power with the lower body. because it's very hard for a woman to produce power with our upper body. And we're going to discuss a little bit about that when we talk about grip strength. And that's going to be major, right?
Yeah, exactly. But we may as well use what we've got. Like our strengths are lower body. So like may as well use that to our advantage to gain more distance. The last thing I've got here is just technique. So things like how ladies grip the club, that can have effect on grip force, which can have effect on how they load the club, how they release the club, and also obviously club path. If something's too over the top, too inside, it's inefficient. There's a segment that's taking over the motion and you're not optimizing all of your energy potential. So with that being said, the top 3 things that I see as a golf coach in amateur female golfers are, firstly, casting. So that falls down to like the lack of upper body strength that we just touched on there. Basically casting, throwing the club in transition instead of loading it and creating that extra energy source for club head speed in the downswing. So casting's very commonly seen. Another one I see is overswinging or over rotation. So they get to the top and they can just keep going, keep going, keep going. I mean, it's pretty incredible how much mobility we have. But as Africa was saying, it's actually detrimental to us. So although it might seem amazing, it's definitely something to keep your eye on and keep down. You don't want that mobility to get too much. The next one is poor footwork, which we touched on with the ground reaction forces. And that basically just means they don't really interact much with the ground. So I think that if you can target casting, overswing, and poor footwork, those are your 3 key energy areas to help increase amateur females' distance.
Yeah, keep in mind that those swing tendencies, they always have a physical tendency and indication behind them. So it's very important to have your athletes screen, right? Just remember that they're all different, especially if you have seniors and amateurs and juniors, you have to get tested. So you have to realize that where is the problem? Is it lack of mobility? Is it lack of stability? Is it lack of motor control? So very important to get them screened. And just touching a little bit more on that grip strength, this is something that is going to be major. And if you can have that as a focus point for you from now on, it's going to be just game changing. Because think about this, women have smaller wrists. We also have smaller muscles. But if in the gym, we don't train that and we just forget about, carrying heavy implements and just working on pulling and sometimes even just holding from a bar, those are exercises that you can do with your athlete that is going to help build that grip strength. And you don't even have to say, hey, we're going to work on grip strength today. They just do it, right? Just carrying those heavy weights. So this is something that is going to be very, very helpful to increase that club head speed and that control, that lag that Daisy was talking. And it's going to be, like I said, like game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to tie the dots here, isn't it? Otherwise, you're just you're aiming at you don't know what. I mean, as you said, it's so important to identify the weak areas or the leaks in speed, and then you have a focus point and you can get to your goals a lot faster, preventing the risk of injury too. So as you just said, the casting, connecting the dots here. So casting, grip strength, overswing. We're talking all things trunk stability, right? Hip stability, thoracic stability, shoulder stability, scapular stability. All of those factors that can cause too much separation, which can affect the sequence. Those we want to stabilize them and get them activated so that it prevents that overswing.
Yeah. So now we want to talk a little bit about the female hormonal cycle. And I'm just going to share my screen here so that we can discuss this a little bit. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the female hormonal roller coaster. And we go through this every single month, right? Men are just stable all the time. So males, especially male coaches, sometimes they don't understand why one day your female athlete's going to have a lot of stamina and a lot of motivation, and she's going to be ready to rock. And then the next day, it looks like everything you taught her is just gone and she cannot swing a club for her life, right? So it's very important to keep in mind that this female hormonal cycle, that this fluctuation, as you can see, it looks like a roller coaster, right? So there are phases that we feel awesome, full of energy, just on top of the world. And sometimes we will feel very low, very demotivated. And it's not like we lost that motivation, right? It's not like we have no more drive. It's just that the peaks and valleys of estrogen and progesterone are just so aggressive sometimes, right?
A lot of up and downs there, isn't it? It's like
a lot of up and downs.
Yeah.
And the important thing is sometimes you may think, but this is not for me, right? Just have her controlling this. But believe me, if you have knowledge of the female hormonal cycle and your athlete shares this with you, shares how bad she feels sometimes, how good she feels sometimes. All females are different, right? Some will thrive on high estrogen, some will thrive on low estrogen, but it's very important to talk to her. And this is going to be very good, not only for just your relation with her, right? Your trust and your rapport, but also the effort and the reward that you're going to get from this. So if you look at this slide, you will see that basically we have three phases. The follicular phase, and it's going to start on day 1 with the menses, right? Then around day 14, we will have ovulation. Okay, so the follicular phase, you can think about it like this anabolic state where you can work on strength, power, and you can work full swing and rounds of 36 holes because we're gonna just rip it at that time, right? But right on ovulation, we have a lot of relaxin, and this is another hormone that is gonna come into place. And relaxin is gonna affect bones and soft tissues, and it's gonna make your athlete extra flexible. And this is very important for you to keep in mind because this is a very high risk injury area. Okay, so around day 14, 15, it depends. Okay, so think about that. Not all females have a cycle of 28 days. Sometimes it can be 21, sometimes it can be 30. So this is something that again, you have to discuss with your athlete. Then on the luteal phase, we can think about this phase as a catabolic state. Okay, so this is not going to be the best time to work on strength or power. Okay, because estrogen is not so high and we have progesterone that is a catabolic hormone. So this is more of a fat burning area. And we have a slide here that we're going to make available for you, and it's going to explain a little bit more. But just if you oversee this a little bit, you will see that we have basically 4 phases. And this is very important because when you have this knowledge and you know that the days 7 to 13 is going to be an amazing time to work on power and strength, and it's going to be a fertile soil to plant, right? So you want to concentrate your efforts there, right? And then you want to cut her some slack on days like ovulation days, on the first days of the menses, or even at PMS, right? When we don't feel that good. And this is where you want to focus more on like low intensity exercise, yoga, control, stability, okay? So this is gonna be very helpful, and don't be afraid to discuss it with your athlete. And you can just send an email to her with a form that they can fill, but you have to have this knowledge, and it's gonna help you take your athlete to the next level. Now, we want to show you a couple of exercises that we separated, thinking about those 3 physical tendencies and swing technical tendencies. And here, I'm going to show you a little bit of exercise that you can do to improve that grip strength. And if you think about them, they're not specific grip exercises, but they're all exercises that that are meant to just carry something heavy and just having that kettlebell control. Kettlebell swings, for example, is a great example of an exercise to work on that ground reaction force. But at the same time, that kettlebell is moving fast, and it has that pattern of just being fast on your hand, and you have to just grip it. The Turkish get up is a good exercise to work on that grip stability and shoulder stability, scapular stability. It's not an easy exercise to teach or even to learn, but it's totally worth it. Totally worth it.
You make it look easy there, Africa.
Years of training, honey. Now, another area that we want to emphasize is just core strength. And these are exercises that are not the typical plank and crunches, right? This is just having heavy weights swinging around you, lifting your arms, holding something unilaterally, having a weight that is asymmetrical, that is not cooperating with you like a kettlebell, and just have it explore three-dimensionally and just being able to control those forces. And it can be so simple, but so effective. Don't be afraid to explore and to have your athlete try the exercises that she likes more. And last but not least, you have here your stable base, and glutes are a big part of it, right? Core is a big part of it, but just working on those the lower body strength that we talk about it is our major power source. So don't neglect it. Something that you can do on the drive range is just having a mini band and just help her activate those glutes on a stable position, on a stance. Here, the unilateral deadlift, one of my favorite exercises to work on hip stability. So these are just examples, okay? There is not one single exercise that I could say, oh, this is the perfect one for this or that. These are just examples that you can explore with your female athletes. And just remember, don't be afraid of using weights and having, it's very important to work on that control and that stability, but just explore it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And one thing I think that I love about especially those last, I think it was 2 videos you played, is how important coordination is in those motions and movements. And as soon as you do those motions wrong, those exercises wrong, you'll know about it. You know,
and that's what happens when you train free weights, when you train just exploring three-dimensionally, right? When you don't sit in a machine and you're just pushing or pulling, and your core and your brain are on vacation because they don't have to stabilize anything, right? But when you're doing exercise with free weights, with kettlebells, with med balls, you're just exploring, and you have to be present. You have to be there, and you have to be very focused just to not lose that coordination and that stability. That's why it's so important to work with just your body weight, and you know, heavy implements that like the kettlebell that are so practical and so versatile that everybody should have at home, especially now with the pandemic that we cannot go to the gym and just use like cable machines and everything. Kettlebells and med balls are just an amazing solution for your athlete to train at home, and you can easily coach her through a Zoom meeting like we're doing right now.
Yeah, let's talk quickly about resistance bands, because I know everyone loves resistance bands, but they're not enough, are they?
They're not enough, not to work on strength, not to work on strength. You can use, even if you use like heavy, very strong elastic bands, you can do like pull-off press and stuff like that and work on stability for shoulders and, you know, scapular stability, but it's not going to be enough to work on, especially like low body strength and low body power. It's just not enough. And we know that everybody loves elastic bands, and women love elastic bands because they're very practical, very colorful, right? But just look at the kettlebells and don't think as they, you know, don't think they are aggressive and too macho or something. They're your friend, believe me. Kettlebell is a woman's best friend.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that we're going to have some of these resources available to you all alongside this presentation link, one of which is going to be that the hormonal cycle, right, Africa?
Yeah. So we're gonna give you these slides, right, and help you build maybe a form that you can send out to your athletes, so you don't have to talk about the hormonal cycle and menstruation right to her face, because we know that not everybody's, just relax and at ease enough to discuss this with your female athletes. But again, if you ignore it, it's going to be worse. So don't ignore the hormonal cycle, make it your friend. And when you do that, your female coach is going to feel so much more relaxed and so much more, just to be able to say, I don't feel well today, coach, and be understanding, right? And not having the coach thinking that she lost motivation, she lost her drive, nothing like that. And we've seen a lot of examples.
I wish they'd known this stuff when I was in college. I mean, I think there was an amazing. We went in for a workout, and I looked at our new workout card for the semester, and I was like, look, I saw a workout card for the football team next to it, and I compared, and I was like, we're doing the same workout as the men's football team. This is interesting. And that kind of triggered me to think, you know what, there must be something wrong with this. There's no way we should be doing the same stuff.
Yeah, that's very lazy of a coach.
Yeah, or just the lack of education.
Yeah, lack of understanding.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we gave you guys some resources that you can use with your players. We highlighted some technical deficiencies that we commonly see in ladies that affect distance, the physical components of that, and some awesome corrective exercises to help you fix it in your athletes. And obviously the great understanding of our hormones. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. I'm going to share my screen here so you have our emails. And here we go. Let's see. Can you see this?
Yep. That's perfect.
All right. So thank you all for your time. We really appreciated you all being here to watch us, and we look forward to seeing you all again.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. And thank you, PGA show. And just very happy to be here. And we hope this information, it's good for you. It's important, and you take it hardly, and just reach out if you need anything.
Exactly. And lastly, before I forget, thank you to our amazing TPI family.